with a group that is having as much fun as you are having tonight. And I do hope I do not take away from your fun. But I wanted to say just a word or two how happy I am to see each and every one of you. 50 years. And on Sue's letter, she said, 50 years. And then she said, can you believe that? I tried to think, 50 years. Now, right after I got the invitation to come tonight, I was reading Wendell Berry's A Place and Time. And in that part that I was reading, he made this statement. It's hard to remember a world a long ago when you're living in another world. And I thought, that's the way the class of 63 is. 50 years ago, you lived in a certain world. Today, you are living in another world. So how much do you remember of 50 years ago? Well, from the way you have hugged one another tonight and talked to one another, you remember some mighty good times from 50 years ago, I'm sure of that. Then I think, as I look around at you, how you have progressed these 50 years. You're still beautiful, young ladies, and gentlemen, you're still handsome. Some of you spread out a little bit. Not the beautiful ladies, but the men. And I'm only kidding, guys. You know.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am. But I will remember that I wanted to be sure to say thank you for the invitation. Thank you for the flowers. Some of you in here remember how much I love flowers. In fact, Tommy Singleton brought me a pie plate filled with violets one spring. He knew that I loved flowers so much, so he was going to bring me some violets. They took over my yard. But that's all right. I love you, Tommy, and I think of that so often. And then, my girls, you're so lovely tonight. Your hair is beautiful, especially those of you who have hair the color of this. But do you remember that when you were in class, I liked to go up and down the rows, watching you work, and pat you on the head. And I came to Cheryl one time, and I patted her head, and she said, I got up this morning at 6 o'clock and spent 2 hours getting it. Sometimes I just couldn't win. But I want to tell you a few snippets that I've picked up along the way. I've read so much this summer and things that I really, really love. I discovered the Persian poet, 13th century Persian poet by the name of Rumi. Now, those of you who speak Persian better than I do may call him by a different name. He's R-U-M-I, but he truly is worth reading. So, in one book that I read, he said, so shines a good deed in a dark and weary world. Well, I know you've done so many good deeds in your life, and your light shines because of that. And it's very important that you carry on your good deeds, but don't overdo. There is a line that you don't want to cross. And I'll tell you an illustration. A young seminary student had just graduated, and he was waiting for calls to come into him to pastor a church. And so while he was waiting, he got a notice, an invitation. A homeless man had died, and they asked him to come do the funeral services. He was so excited, and he worked very hard to get ready to officiate at that funeral. He was a little bit late, so he drove and drove and drove, looking for where the funeral would be. Finally, he came to a place where he saw dirt piled up on one side and an open pit. This is it, he said. So he got out of his car, opened his book, and preached and gestured as you cannot believe. He did everything in the world. And then he thought he had finished and did well. He got his car and left. Two workmen sitting under a tree eating lunch had watched him all this time. And one said to the other, I've been in this business a long, long time. It's the first time I ever saw anyone make so much over a septic tank. And then this same boy wrote these words. Out beyond the ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. I don't know how that strikes you, but I love it. So wrongdoing and right doing are just ideas? Well, perhaps. It's something to think about, and which brings me to another story of sometimes we can think too much. A young boy, a little kid, was going into the church service, and he saw a truck drive up with some kind of bags in the truck, and he wondered what they could be. So when they were leaving the church, he saw the man go to his truck, and the little boy said, "What you got in your truck, mister?" And he said, "Fertilizer." "What you going to do with it, mister?" "I'm going to put it on my strawberries." "You better come go home with me, mister. We put sugar and cream on it." I'm so glad I got some laughs from you. Do you remember when you were sitting in the classroom and I had to warn you it's going to be a joke and that you better laugh? Seriously, this has been great. I'm so glad to see you. So glad you're doing so well. A few years ago, 50 to be exact, you received a diploma that showed you had conquered math and history, English, science. Well, tonight you've just gained another diploma. You've also graduated honorably from the School of Common Sense, and I congratulate you for that. Bless you, I love you, and may you live forever. And I'm just about to drown Harry.
Thank you.